Okay. What do you do? Drop the first feed? 2 new ones. All right, no, sir. Basically. All right, this is the closing of the Feast of Purim. We started it off yesterday, then we feasted after, and then now we in what? I believe we're in Esther the 7th chapter. Was it 7 or 8? Yeah, Esther the 7th chapter. This shouldn't take too long because we're just finishing it off. So yeah, give me Esther chapter 7 and verse 1. So now we're at the part where they go to the banquet, which is like a feast, a party, which Esther made for the king and Haman. So now we're going to finish it off. So because it's a 2-day feast, you do half the class on the first day and then half the class on the closing. So we feasted yesterday, and then we're going to feast some more today. Also, any questions online, just, type them in, and Karafi or someone will get to them. It's my day off from questions today. Karafi's day today. Give me a
7 and 1, yeah?
Yeah, 7 and 1.
So the king and Haman came to the banquet, and Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the 2nd day of the banquet of wine, what is thy petition?
So now he said, all right, what's your petition? What do you want? The king was asking her, because obviously at this time she didn't make it known what she wanted. Go ahead.
And it shall be granted thee.
And he goes, what is it? What's your petition? What do you want? And it shall be granted thee. Meaning, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. He said to her, I'll give you anything, even to half of the kingdom. Which lets you know how fire Esther was, man. Because a man's willing to give her half of the kingdom. I mean, you're willing to give a woman half your wage, and you don't get paid that much. Imagine this man's got a kingdom, man. This man's got provinces, and this man's the king and in charge of everything. And he's willing to give her half of all of that, man. And listen, the woman that you're willing to give your wages don't even look that good. And this man's willing to give his whole kingdom, man. Imagine how good she must look, man. For a man to want to give half the kingdom, man, half of everything he rules, he's willing to give all that to a woman because based off her being beautiful, man. Go ahead. And that's what he picked her. He picked her what? Based on her beauty. He didn't pick her because what? She had the correct mind. That's what people like to say when a man first sees a woman. He's meant to look at her mind, and which is, somewhat true. But what attracts you to a woman is you liking the look of her first, and after that you get to know her. No man don't just see a woman and think in his head, I can see me being with her in 20 years' time. I can see me and her having a baby in 20 years' time. Nah, man. First thing you see is her beauty, and it lets you know what? Should I speak to her? Should I not speak to her? Kind of thing. Go ahead.
And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom.
Even what?
To the half of the kingdom.
He said, it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Go ahead.
Then Esther, the queen, answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king.
She said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king. Meaning, favor means what? Like, basically he's saying, yo, if you like me and whatnot, and you're willing to do something good to me and whatnot, that's what she's asking. If I found favor in your sight, go ahead. If you're going to do me a favor, if you're going to do something nice for me and so forth, go ahead.
Let my life be given me at my petition.
Let my life be given me at my petition. Meaning, what does that mean? Let her stay alive, man. At this time, the king didn't know that she was an Israelite. He didn't know, man. You know why? Because Mordecai told her to hide her nation and her people from him, and don't tell him who she is. So all this time, the king was with her, and he didn't know her nationality. Go ahead.
For we are sold, and I am a people.
For we are sold, and I as my people. And this is black people, man. Black people is sold, man. We sold and scattered throughout the earth. We sold, man, and scattered throughout the whole earth, man. This is why black people is everywhere. And at this time, they were sold into this kingdom, man. They was carried away captive with Nebuchadnezzar, and then Ahasuerus, who is also Xerxes the second, man. Go ahead.
And slain, and to perish.
And to what?
And to perish.
And to perish. And this is what they see black people as. Black people are meant to perish. This is why every time we turn on the news, another black person dead, another black person stabbed, because they just see it as our life is to perish. Haman wanted black people to perish also, man. He wanted black people dead also. Go ahead. So she said to the king, let my life be given me at my petition, meaning if I found favor in your sight, let me stay alive, man. Let me live. Go ahead.
But if we have been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue. And
she said, if we were sold just to be slaves, I would have held my tongue. But our oppressors, we understand that we're slaves, and black people are like black people walking around today outside of the truth. They're fine with being slaves, man. They don't mind. They don't complain. They just say it is what it is. A black man would just say, you know what, I just want to work and do what I need to do. But now, they ain't just happy to let you be a slave. They also have to kill you in the process, man. Like, I mean, if a man's a slave, let him be a slave, but they want to kill you in the process. Meanwhile, you're just trying to be the best slave you can be. They want to kill you also. They want to wipe us out as a nation. These times, we ain't doing no harm to nobody. All we do is wake up in the morning, hand out application forms and CVs, and for the most part, they throw your CV in the bin once you walked out the shop. Anyway, man, like being a black man, there's only a certain amount of jobs you can get. As a black man, the only jobs you can get is what? Security, driving jobs. What other jobs can black men get? Security, driving jobs, manual labor jobs outside in the cold, warehouse jobs, barber shop, food shop. Because honestly, you see in these big businesses, they don't want a black man's face at the front, man. You see if it's anything admin and you're seen by customers. You can't be seen by customers, man. The black man has to be in the back. The black man has to be in the back, man, making the coffee. To make you walk with the coffee to the door and someone takes it off you because you can't come to the front, man. They don't want to see black people at the front of no businesses. And this is why every black man's job is roughly the same job. Now, obviously, you're going to have a few that have good jobs. But for the most part, the jobs that you do get ain't going to be the best. And it's not because you ain't got the skill set. It's because you're from a nation that they don't like, man. They don't want to give you the best position. It's just how it goes. Go ahead.
Although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
Go ahead.
Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he?
So now, remember that at the banquet is Haman, Esther, and the king. And now she said this to the king, and the king said, well, who wants to kill your people and who is he? Go ahead.
That does pursue in his heart to do so.
And your heart is your mind. So he's saying, so the king's saying, yo, what the king's basically saying is, all things come through me. And who has got it in their mind that they want to do this? Go ahead.
And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is the wicked Haman.
Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is the wicked Haman. Now, this man thought he was come to the banquet to party and whatnot. And then now Esther said, him right here, she's brought him there, kind of like what people do. They bring you to a location to embarrass you. Like if a man finds that his woman's been cheating on him in certain places, what they do is he'll go to the wedding and then he'll show the video on the big screen, man, on the projector. He'll show the video, and this woman's going there thinking, yeah, I'm getting married, I'm walking down the aisle, not realizing that this man's brought her there just to show the video on the projector, man, to let everyone know how filthy she's been. She brought Haman there for this reason. Go ahead.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and queen, and the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up.
Now he was afraid before the king because he knows that the king loved Esther. And if you know how it goes, if you harm or offend a man's woman, chances are that man probably won't ever like you, man. Chances are that man ain't gonna ever like you again, man. Because obviously that's his woman, and you know you've offended her, and it's just long. So yeah, the king was rough, meaning he was angry. So he walked into the palace garden. So he walked out into the garden to get a breather, some fresh air. Go ahead.
And Haman stood up to make requests for his life to Esther.
And then Haman went to Esther to beg for his life, man. Haman went to beg for his life because he knows that Esther could say, you know what, don't kill Haman or kill Haman. So he went to beg for his life. Go ahead.
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
And he saw that there was evil determined against him, meaning what? This king was the man that called the shots. This king had what? Chamberlains that worked under him, men that worked under him. And he knew, all right, then if the king says, move this guy out of here and get rid of him, they would have to get rid of him. Like once upon a time, even in England, a king could have you killed, man. A king could have you killed for treason. I mean, once upon a time, Henry VIII had got a couple of his women killed, man. For what? Because what? They didn't give him boy sons. Not realizing the problem lied with him. not realizing the man determines what's in the what the child is. Henry, for no reason, man. Because once upon a time, a king had that power. He could call the shots, man. Same like King James could have got people killed in that time. Obviously, nowadays it's a little different. What did they do now? Just send you to jail. Nowadays, they just send you to jail because they want to make it like the more, liberal now and so forth. When really, back in the days, they would just what? Hang you or put you in the stocks and cut your head off. Go ahead.
Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine.
So then the king returned out of the palace garden, man, back into the place. So after it was in the garden and he was walking back in. Go ahead.
And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereupon Esther was.
So imagine your woman, you come in and she's fallen on the bed and there's a man by her in the bed. Now Haman was begging for his life, so he's holding it. You see, like when you're begging someone, like, please, please, please. Listen, man, them ones when you've committed a crime and your mom says she's taking you to the police station and you're like, mom, please, them ones like, listen, I know them ones growing up. You're like, mom, don't. They're not going to find out, blah, 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 blah. Haman was trying to do the same thing, man. Pleading for his life, pleading for everything. He didn't want to die. The king's come in and he sees basically Haman near enough on top of Esther. Go ahead. He sees him near enough on top of her, man. Imagine, first of all, you're angry anyway. You've gone outside to calm down. And then the man that's meant to be your right-hand man, you see him on top of your woman, man. I mean, people get killed for less than that. I mean, Tony Montana killed, what's his name? Sosa. Tony Montana killed Sosa for less, man. Was his name Sosa? What was his name? His name's Sosa, right? Man. Yeah? That's less, man. That's his sister, not his wife. Obviously, his sister's going to get a man eventually, ain't it? And the thing is, Sosa was treating her good, man. He weren't treating her like a whore. He actually married her, man. So, listen, that I love the movie Scarface, but that wasn't justified. But go ahead. Not in my eyes, that wasn't justified. Go ahead.
Then said the king, will he force the queen also?
And he said, will he force the queen also? Meaning what? Is he going to try rape Esther? Is he going to rape the queen? Because the king's just coming and he's just saw that. He didn't see the whole backdrop of, his pleading for his life because he was in the palace garden at that stage. He just came back and seen him trying to force the queen. Go ahead.
And so in front, so also before me in the house, as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
As the what?
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face, man. They covered Haman's face. Give Kamala a call and tell her Audrey now. Because I don't know where she's at. Nah. She knows she can't play that nonsense outside. Yeah, go ahead. tell her Audrey that now.
And Harbona, one of his chamberlains, said before the king, behold, also the gallows 50 cubits high.
And now, lo and behold, Haman built these gallows for Mordecai, and the chamberlain said, "There's gallows 50 cubits high outside, man." Go ahead.
Which Haman had made for Mordecai.
Listen, Haman made them gallows for Mordecai, man. And Haman's going to get hanged from them same gallows, man. Right. And this happens to our oppressor, man. They make all these diseases for us, and they end up getting it, man. They set all these traps for us, and they end up falling in their own traps. They put drugs in our community for us, and now it's mostly white men that's high off Mamba, man.
Right.
His name's what? Manny. His name was Manny. So who's Sosa?
Sosa got someone trying to kill.
Which one? The one with the chainsaw?
Sosa the one that said the ministry.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, Manny, that's the one. R.I.P. Manny, go ahead.
God. who has spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then Sakya and Haman had made Sakya. Okay. So they hanged Haman on the gallows.
They hung him on the gallows that he made for us. Hold that, but quickly give me Psalms chapter 7 and verse 15. He made that for a black man, man. He made them gallows for a black man to hang him on. And lo and behold, he ended up getting hung on there, man.
Right.
And these things happen in the Bible when you try and come against Israel. Right. Read that for me.
Psalm 7 and 15. Behold, he made a pit and digged it.
He made a what?
A pit and digged it.
And this is what our oppressor does. He makes a pit and he digs that pit, man. He makes that pit for black men,
right.
Drugs in the community, so right. We saw them and go to jail, man. Right. Everything he does is aimed to get us to fall. He makes a pit and digs it. That's what this scripture is saying right here. Go ahead.
And is fallen into the ditch which he made.
And is what?
Fallen into the ditch that he made.
And is fallen into the ditch that he made. So this is why when you see our oppressors that is homeless, don't be giving them your change, man.
Right.
They put all them drugs in the streets for us, and then guess what happened? They started taking them drugs, man.
Right.
He's fallen into the ditch that he made, and let him stay in that ditch that he made, man. Listen, the Lord's with us and not with them. So half the things that you see them making for us, guess what? They're gonna fall in it themselves. Read on.
Back to Esther.
Yeah, go on. You can go to Esther if you.
7, yeah.
Esther, no, I believe it was in 8 by now.
7.
Go ahead.
So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's wrath was pacified. After Haman got hanged, the king was at ease, man. The king was like, yeah, man, I feel good. Now that man's dead. Go ahead. What did you say? She's gonna order it? Yeah. My card? Yeah. Yeah. And that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews enemy unto Esther the queen, and Mordecai became king. So Mordecai came before the king.
And Mordecai came before the king, man. Go ahead.
So Esther had told that he was unto her.
And now Esther told them. Now Esther's finally revealed who she was to the king, her nation, who Mordecai was to her. That Mordecai was what? Her cousin, right? No, it was her uncle's son, right? Mordecai's her uncle. All right, no, sir. Mordecai's her uncle. So he raised her like she was his daughter. So now she's finally revealed to them, well, to the king, that Mordecai is her uncle, and she's a Jew, and Mordecai is a Jew also. Go ahead.
And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai.
Meaning what? Mordecai is getting this power now, man. Right. Mordecai is getting this rank and this power now. And guess what? Mordecai didn't have to sell out to get this power, man.
That's right.
Mordecai didn't have to dye his hair blonde like Kanye West. He didn't have to be like Oprah Winfrey. Right. Who else is there that sold out? Mordecai didn't have to be like Gail, man. Esther didn't have to be like Gail, man, and so forth to make it anywhere. Go ahead.
And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman, meaning what? Esther gave that power to Mordecai, man. Listen, try ask a woman that's in charge. Try ask her to give you half of her check. She ain't gonna give you half of her check, man. Whereas Esther gave what? Mordecai, the house of Haman, man. Go ahead.
And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman.
So now, Haman still had that decree that all the Jews should be killed on the 13th or whatever date they set. So now, she's bowed before the king with tears, and now she was trying to get that overturned. She was trying to get that changed now. Go ahead.
The Agagite and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
And he devised the plan against the Jews, man, which was to kill all black people, man.
Right.
And this is what you see how it said kill all the Jews. This should let you know that all these Jews need to come together, man. Right. This should make us come together more than ever. Because listen, they didn't say, oh, just kill Mordecai as an individual. They didn't say just kill Esther as an individual. They said get rid of all of them. Even ones that Haman's never ever met, he wanted dead also. Which should let you know that the oppressor that's never ever seen you in his life still wants you dead based off the race that you are, man. Which means black people, we need to come together, man. Because they're coming together to do whatever they want. We need to come together, man. Go ahead.
Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther.
And they held out the golden scepter. When he holds out the scepter, that means what? You come into the to the before the throne to speak to the king. Go ahead. And our brother online said, did Esther really want to be married to the king? Being not of Israel, and did she have children with him? With Esther, while it is all the beautiful women was called. So if you know anything about how them kings was back then, she didn't really have a choice. It was, so this king just called them women, and the one that he chose is the one that he chose, kind of thing. And in the book of Esther, it doesn't state that they had no kids in the book of Esther. So I'm not too sure about that, but history might tell you otherwise. But from the records in the Bible of Esther, it doesn't mention that they had any kids and whatnot. But read on. But I'll check with Captain Mashak and let you know. But hopefully they didn't. Go ahead. Hopefully they didn't.
So
That's what, if they did, it's probably Saddam Hussein and whatnot. Go ahead.
So Esther arose and stood before the king, and he said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters divided by Haman. And she said, let it be written to reverse the letters, man. Let it be written to reverse the letters. Meanwhile, half these black people in power, they can reverse certain things, man. But they don't want to. Listen, they can reverse black people's poverty, man. Listen, imagine Akon, that's the African, is giving everybody light in Africa, man. He's building all kind of light in, where is it, Nigeria? All over. Is it Akon? Akon, that how my laptop don't let me. Is it Senegal? He's giving everyone light in Senegal, man. And I'm sure he's paying for everything else. Meanwhile, in the black community, what do our black people do? Popcorn goes to Africa and kisses the ground, man. Calls it the motherland. Yeah, and every black leader does what? Goes back to Africa. Meanwhile, they skip all the poor kids in the ghetto, man, to go all the way back to Africa. I'm sure Steph London donated about 10 grand as well, right, to Africa. She donated 10 grand to Africa, man, when she could have donated 10 grand to her own people. Right. She could have donated 10 grand to her own people, but they give them their love to everybody. I mean, Africa's doing just fine, man. Them Africans come over here and them Africans is rich, man. Them Africans move over here and they live in all them nice areas and they don't even like niggas as it is, but we still get money and give them our money. Meanwhile, we don't ever send money back to Jamaica, though. We don't ever send money back to Trinidad and all of these places and Haiti and whatnot. But Africa gets our money. Black people be poor here and we be sending money to them Africans talking about this kid would die without clean water. If you donate £3, you might save a child's life. And then they got the sad music in the background. God, you can say something. Go ahead. Exactly. Exactly right. Exactly. We want to give all our love to them. We want to donate money. What is it? UNICEF, Oxfam and UNICEF. We donating all our money and giving them all our love, man. Meanwhile, the black people right here get no love. Read on. Which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in the king's provinces. Go ahead. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? And she said, how can I endure to see the evil that I've done unto my people? Which lets you know, man, Esther was willing to die to save her nation, man. She goes, how can I see the evil that's coming to my people? Meanwhile, our celebrities nowadays, our people who's in that position nowadays, hate their people, man. They wouldn't stand up for black people, which is why half these celebrities can't even compare themselves to Esther and Proverbs 31. You see all of them talking about their Proverbs 31 woman. I don't think they know how much the price of rubies cost, man. The Bible says what her price is far above rubies. From what we see from most of these women, their price ain't far above rubies, man. There can't be a Proverbs 31 woman. Go ahead. Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? How can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred, man? Her kindred is a family, man. The Israelites. Go ahead. Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
And listen, man, they hung him on the gallows. We should let you know, if you're serving God and anyone tries to kill you, the Lord will make them die the same way they tried to kill you, man.
Right.
Like all throughout the Bible, there's people that's tried to harm us as a nation, and the Lord fights for us. It tells you that if you're serving God, the Lord will fight for us, and our enemies can't stand before us. But if we're not serving God, the Lord's going to turn his back, and then Hammond be able to hang you, man. Meaning Hammond what? Be able to shoot you dead in the streets, man. Hammond be able to what? Give you 30 years in jail for something you didn't do. But if you serve God, they can't do that to you, man, because the Lord sends them angels to protect you. Go ahead.
Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring.
And seal it with the king's ring, meaning the king puts his approval on there, the king puts his stamp on there. That's what that means. Go ahead.
For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse.
I mean, no man reverse, meaning the king calls the shots, man. What the king says goes. And that's how it was once upon a time, man. What the king would say would go. Go ahead. And that's why Henry VIII was able to, make his own religion and whatnot. Make his own religion and all of this stuff. Go ahead.
Then were the king's scribes called at that time.
Then the king's scribes are called. There was the scribes is the ones who do all the writing. Go ahead.
That is the month of Sivan, on the 3 and 20th day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews. And it was written
all that Mordecai commanded, man. Then Mordecai what? Got rank and power, man. Mordecai got power in that kingdom, man. Mordecai didn't have to sell out, man.
Right.
Who also got power in our enemies' kingdoms? Joseph, man. Joseph got power in Egypt, man. Daniel also, right? Daniel also got power, man, in Babylon and whatnot. And they was what? Serving the Lord, man. Which means you don't have to be a sellout to get power, man.
Right.
You don't have to sell out your people and be a sellout yourself to make it. People make it like you have to sell out to make it in this kingdom. Listen, man, you don't, man. You know who's got power in this kingdom? Commanding General Yohanna, man.
That's right.
He's got power in this kingdom, man. Get me. He's got power in this kingdom, man. And this is why there's I.S.U.P.K set up all over the world, man. Imagine, man. If he was to sell out, there'd be nothing for black people right now, man. But because he hold fast from the men that was over him, there's a safe haven for black people now, man. And there's righteous black men. And then we're going to stand up and raise up more brothers and more brothers and more brothers. And before you know it, there's going to be UPK schools all over this world, man, until Christ returns, man. Read on.
And to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Ethiopia.
Good.
And 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with his ring, and sent letters by post on horseback and riders and mules and camels.
And now that was how they used to send letters back then. Like nowadays, obviously you can go on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Back then, letters was done strictly by horseback, man. Whereas nowadays, you got YouTube, you got everything and so forth. Go ahead.
Young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life.
And listen, man, that's what we need to do: gather together and stand for our life, man.
Right.
If our oppressor's harming one of us, we need to treat it like he's harming every single one of us. Right. We need to stand for our life, man. If we don't stand for our laws and our life, guess what? There won't be none of us left, man. And this is what Commanding General Yohanna did, standing for his life and for our life, man. And then now we're all here in the I.S.U.P.K. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here today. Would be what? What day is today? Sunday. We'd be in church somewhere with a tambourine, a three-piece suit, snakeskin shoes, singing hymns. What's their favorite hymn? Yeah, This Little Light of Mine. That's what we'll be singing. Singing Amazing Grace, and that's what we'll be doing. Yeah. Get me? If it wasn't for that, man, we'd be in church doing all of that nonsense, playing the guitar and the trumpet and the 7 days Adventist. That's what we'd be doing. Really, that's what we'd be doing, man. You see what those people's doing at church? If it wasn't for this truth, man, that's what we'd be doing today. Playing the trumpet, ironed our suit, fresh for this morning, man. Go ahead.
To destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and providence that would assault them.
And listen, man, we was allowed to what? Fight back, man, for everyone that would try to assault us. And this is why in here we say defend ourselves, man. Now in church, they don't. You can't defend yourself in church. In church, if someone attacks you, you're just told to turn the other cheek. You're told to turn the other cheek, man. Someone assaults you. If someone assaults you, your pastor says, "Don't defend yourself." What does it say to you? Let this man be. Two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right. Listen, someone's trying to do you damage, and two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah, that's what it tells you. Rise above it. That's what it says. Rise above it, man. Whereas listen, we need to defend ourselves, man. You sitting down just waiting for things to get better. That person's gonna keep assaulting you and whatnot, man. It's like a bully. Like a bully, don't stop bullying you until you stand up for yourself, man. Listen, going back 15 years ago, if you was in primary school with me when I was in my bullying days, and you're turning the other cheek, listen, I'm a bully. I'll be bullying till you're 40 and 50. I'll still be bullying you. Now, if it wasn't for commanding GEN.YAHANNA, it's lucky read on.
Both little ones and women, and take the spoil of them for a prey.
And listen, we was allowed to defend ourselves and take their spoil and so forth. Meaning we was allowed to take what they had, their gold, their jewelry, their all of their things. And when we came out of Egypt, same thing, man. We took their spoil, because really all of that spoil really belonged to us. Because really they got that off the back of our slavery, man.
Right.
All that gold and whatnot. Like you see all these rappers like H and whatnot got all these gold platinum plaques. Really, that's meant to be a black man's platinum plaques, man. On the day we leave this place, I'm gonna go take them plaques off the wall, because really those belong to black people, man. You see all these artists that's getting all these awards, Amy Winehouse, which stole black people's style. Really, man, those awards really belong to us, man. All the money they have really belongs to us. Go ahead.
Upon one day, in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day.
So if they was coming to attack us on that day, we was to defend ourselves, man. We was to fight back. And guess what? There's no better way to defend yourself than when it's you and your brothers together, man.
Right.
Imagine if black men stuck together, these other nations wouldn't even try and do anything to us. So they give us distractions and make a black man be against the black man. Because if they know, if all of us stick together, think about it. If all of us stick together, which Chinese man could beat up our women in the hair shop, man? Which Chinese man could that Chinese men don't grow past 4 feet something, man? Which one of these Chinese men could beat up our women in the hair shops? If they exactly, there would be no Chinese men. Then you see them slanted eyes would be black once we finish with them. We would black them slanted eyes once we finish with them. But because we don't stick together, they can beat our women up in the Chinese in the hairdressers, man. But once we stick together, there's going to be no more of that. No more these East India. I don't know if it was true, but remember they said that the riot started because they said they raped that black sister in the hair shop. Was it even true? No one knows if it was true. Apparently, she didn't go to the police because she was illegal. Did you hear about that? You must have heard about them riots, right? You didn't. You heard about them, right? At the beauty shop up by Perry Bar. And then guess what? Black people rioted. A week later, was buying their lace fronts from them, man. Buying lace fronts and wigs from there like a week later, which means, and it's still open now, still making money off black people. And that's the busiest shop around there. And I've noticed everywhere black people are, these heathens put shops there. Even in town where we do camp, there's a gang of young black kids that chill by where is it, Dale End. Have you seen how they put that Sabina's cosmetic hair there now? And then now they got the other hair shop over there to the left of it. Because wherever black people are, they know they can make money. But if we stuck together, what would we do? We would support black businesses. We would set up black businesses. And we wouldn't have to go to these heathens for anything. But because we're separated and we don't like to see black people doing good, they can take advantage of us and make money off us. Read on.
Of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, the copy of the writing for the commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day. And the Jews should be ready against that day. And black man is 2020, man. This was the 5th century when everybody wanted to kill you. They still want to kill you in the 21st century, man. Right. Every black man should be ready against that day. And how can you be even more ready? By being in the I.S.U.P.K, man. Right. B18, 5PW, 394 Lodge Road, man. Be in this building, man. As soon as they come for us, we're going to come through the door, the window, everywhere, man. Listen, black man is the most skilled at everything, but what it is, we don't stick together. If we did stick together, there would be no such thing as a black man being shot by a white police officer, man. Because they know that, all right, then, if we do kill them, they're not going to stand for it. But they know that we will stand for it, so they just get away with it. They just kill us. We argue and rant and say Black Lives Matter for a week.
Exactly. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And the thing is, man, listen, man, I'm not. You see them Black Lives Matters marches. Most of these black men is there for the women anyway, man. They be there trying to chat up women in the march. They ain't there because Black Lives Matter. They just want some women, man. That's exactly what they're there for. Go ahead.
To avenge themselves of their enemies.
And we avenge ourselves of our enemies. Go ahead.
So the post that rode upon the mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on the king's commandment. And the decree was given at Shushan, the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white. And
listen, man, Mordecai went out in royal apparel, man. Remember, once upon a time, Mordecai was what? In sackcloth. Listen, man, the time's coming when black men is going to be in royal apparel, man. Once Yahushua returns, black men is going to be in royal apparel, man. Go ahead.
And with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen,
and with a great crown of gold and fine linen of purple, man. Go ahead. By the way, Mordecai wasn't IUIC, by the way. Let me just put that out there. If Mordecai was IUIC, all of us in that province would have been dead and whatnot. All of us in that province would have been dead. Let me just quickly put that out there. Go ahead.
Rejoice, that was glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day.
And they had what?
A good day.
They had feast and a good day, man. And listen, yesterday we had a good day, man. We feasted and had a good day. Had some, some food. We had some was it beef ribs or lamb ribs? Which one was it? I don't know. Was it lamb ribs? Was it lamb ribs? Marinated. Salaki, let me just add to that. Barbecue marinated lamb ribs. Let me just add to that. Add the barbecue to it. We ate good yesterday, man. Go ahead.
And many of the people of the land became Jews for the fear of the Jews.
No. When that says they became Jews, don't think that means that you can be a spiritual Jew. It means they started keeping the laws and whatnot. It don't mean they became like us. They started to keep our laws. That's what it means. Because fear fell upon them. Like in the kingdom, many of these people are going to become like us because they're going to be keeping all our laws, man. But they're still not us. They're just going to be doing the right thing, keeping God's laws, meaning they're not going to get coronavirus because they're not going to be eating bats and so forth. Right now, these Chinese men and Chinese women, they need to become like us if they want to get rid of coronavirus, if they want to stop getting rid of if they want to get rid of all these diseases, they need to become like us. Go ahead.
Chapter 9. Now, on the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them. The
enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them. Everybody wants power over black and Hispanics, man. Everybody, like, they can't just let us be. They can't just let us be. I mean, when you look at it for the most part, black people just want to mind their business. We just want to live in a neighborhood where no one calls the police on us, where police don't pull us over. We just want to drive our car and, go from A to B. We just want to enjoy, try to have the best life we can in this household. But they don't allow us to, man. They want power over us and they want to make our life hard, man. Go ahead.
Though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them.
Listen, man. And listen, in the kingdom, we're going to have rule over everyone. Whether they like us or don't like us, they're going to have to do what we say. Whether you want to listen or don't want to listen, they're still going to have to make sure that cotton's picked, make sure that coffee's made, make sure that make sure that carpet's hoovered. And I'm a bit extra mean. I'm gonna make them clean that. I'm gonna make them sweep that carpet with a toothbrush. They're gonna be down with a little toothbrush. Listen, and the best not miss a bit, man. I'm gonna say you got 10 minutes to sweep this whole floor with a toothbrush. And listen, and if they don't like it, tough luck. I mean, they make us do things that we don't like, man. And all we do is moan about it. And so, they're just gonna have to do the same thing. Go ahead.
Verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in the cities.
The Jews did what?
Gather themselves together in their cities.
And this is what we need to do right now. Gather ourselves together. You find that all throughout the Bible. Gather yourselves together. The Bible ain't no black men should be separate. The Lord wants us to gather together, man. Go ahead.
Throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus to lay hand on such that sought to hurt their heads.
Go ahead.
And no man could withstand them. For the fear of them fell upon the people.
One sec, let me just give you the code. Tell her 7743, there's no money on there, so I'll say it loud anyway. There's no money on there.
And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and the officers of the king helped the Jews.
Go ahead.
Because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
The fear of Mordecai fell upon them, meaning they fear the black man. Go ahead.
For Mordecai was great in the king's house.
And Mordecai was great in the king's house. Same like Joseph was great in the king's house, man. And Daniel also. Go ahead.
And his fame went out throughout all the provinces.
And all throughout the provinces through India to Ethiopia. His fame was noised abroad, meaning they all heard about him. Go ahead.
But this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater.
And this man waxed greater and greater, and he didn't have to be a sellout to get this greatness, man. Let that sink in. He didn't have to be a sellout to get this greatness. He didn't have to be like Kanye West, talking about slavery was a choice. Kanye West with his big jaw can barely speak properly. I think him going through the wire messed with his brain as well, not just his jaw. Go ahead.
Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword.
And listen, man, this was us, man. The Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword. And black men is very skilled in fighting. You see how we fight. Obviously, if we do lose fights, it's because what? Most black people nowadays, we're out of shape. We just want to smoke weed. Meanwhile, our oppressors, like you see all of them in the kickboxing gym. Have you noticed all of them is in the kickboxing gym? The only reason they're in the kickboxing gym is because we naturally talented. So the only way they have an advantage over us is them doing what? 6 kickboxing classes a week. Whereas and black men, we just swing wild and still win, man. We swing wild with no technique and still win. Like we ain't got no technique or nothing, man. We still win, man. Whether it's with an arm bar or whatever, whether it's with anything, man. Go ahead.
And slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
And did what they would unto those that hated them. Go ahead.
And in Shushan, the palace of the Jews, in Shushan, the palace, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men.
We slew and destroyed 500 men, man. 500 men. Go ahead.
And Pashandafa, and Dalphan, and Aspatha, and Parafa, and Adalia, and Aradifa, and Pamasta, and Arasai, and Aradai, and Vajesata, the 10 sons of Haman, the Hamadaphite, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid not their hand.
Under what? Spoiled. On the spoil laid not their hand, man. Go ahead. Read on.
On that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan, the palace was brought before the king. And the king said to Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace. And the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces?
Go ahead.
Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done.
And he goes, what is your request after all this? And it shall be done. Go ahead.
Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according to the day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows, man. Meanwhile, this is Esther, a woman, talking about let Haman's 10 sons be hanged. Our women nowadays would be saying what? Let them live. Let them live. That's in the past. They can change. Esther weren't saying none of that. Esther said, let his 10 sons be hanged on the gallows, man. That's what she said, man. If it was Oprah Winfrey would be like, you know what? Exactly. She'd be like, we're better than that. Oprah Winfrey would say, what do they like to say? Some nonsense. I can't remember how it goes. There's a saying that they got. I can't remember what it is. I don't remember how to say it, but yeah, 2 wrongs don't make her. Listen, Esther said hang all 10 of them boys, man. Esther said hang all of them, and that was the right spirit to be in, because Haman had it the way where he wanted to kill every single Jew. Now, by them hanging these 10 sons, it lets these other nations know we can't mess with those black people, because if they get wind of what we want to do to them, they're gonna hang us. But if they know, oh, you're just gonna forgive them, they're just gonna, try their luck and whatnot. Go ahead.
And the king commanded it to be so done.
And the king commanded it to be so that them 10 sons was hanged on the gallows. Go ahead.
And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand.
Slew more men, go ahead.
And the other Jews that were in the king's province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew their foes 70.
Listen, man, we need rest from our enemies, man. Right. A black man can't get no rest from his enemies, whether it's the police, the oppressor. We can't get no rest, man. Go ahead.
But they laid not their hand on the prayer.
Go ahead.
On the 13th day of the month, and on the 14th day of the same day, rest day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
They did what?
Made it a day of feasting and gladness.
And this is why we celebrate Purim, man. It's a day of feasting and gladness, man. Because they wanted to kill us, and the tables was turned, man. It's a day of feasting and gladness, man. And every black man should be glad for these feast days. Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
So, like I said, it's a day of feasting and gladness. So we eat, we drink, we get merry, we be happy, man. And we have every right to be. I mean, a black man deserves happiness, man. Seems like in this kingdom, a black man's not allowed to be happy. Listen, man, God said a black man's allowed to be happy, man. And we're happy once we're serving him. Go ahead.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 30th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same day rested, and made it a feast, a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
And of sending portions, man. We sent food and gave food and so forth. Go ahead.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly.
And they should keep it the same yearly. And this is why we keep in this feast yearly, man. This is why, because we follow this Bible now in church. Ask them about Purim, they don't know what it is. In church, they don't keep none of the feast days in them places, man. In the mosque, they don't keep none of these feast days, man. Seventh-day Adventists, they claim to read this Bible, but why ain't they keeping this feast yearly, man? They ain't keeping it, man. We keep all the feasts of the Lord, man, and the memorials and so forth, because we follow what the Bible says. And that's why we're here today, man, getting ready to feast. Go ahead.
As the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which will turn unto them from sorrow to joy. And the month which was turned from them from sorrow to joy, because it was a sorrowful month where black people were supposed to die, man, by the hands of Haman and them. Go ahead. And from mourning into a good day, and that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another. And of feasting and of joy and of sending portions one to another. So you see how these Muslims send food when it's Eid. Like on days like this, you can send food to to your neighbors who are Israelites. Say, yo, I got a plate for you and whatnot. They ain't gonna understand why you're sending it, because obviously, but in the kingdom, they will understand, because all of us is going to be keeping all these things in the kingdom. The things that we keep in now is the shadow of things to come. Everyone's going to be doing it in the future. So all these people that laugh at the Israelites and be like, oh, why do you celebrate this? Listen, they're going to have to be keeping it in the kingdom, man. Right. So they're going to have to keep it too. They got no choice. So they might as well just start rehearsing the righteous acts from now. Go ahead. And gifts to the poor, and the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is the Lot, to consume them. Go ahead. And destroy them. Then Esther came before the king and commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should be turned upon his own head. And that's exactly what happened, man. The wicked device he devised against black people returned upon his own head, man. Right. And where's Haman now? Dead in the grave, man, for messing with God's people. And that's going to be the future of all your oppressors, man. They're going to be dead in the grave for messing with God's people. Go ahead. Any more on that? Right. And that he and his sons shall be hanged on the gallows, Wherefore they call these days Purim.
They call these days what?
Purim.
They call these days what?
Purim.
And listen, man, we celebrating Haman and his 10 sons being hanged on the gallows, man. That's what we're celebrating, man. If you thought we was here celebrating Elton John's new single and who else is they give me some Christian holidays.
Easter.
If you thought it was here, open that door quickly, Shamgo. Open that door quickly. If you thought we were celebrating, Easter and Valentine's Day, the doors open. If you thought we were celebrating that, the doors open, so you can leave if you thought we were celebrating that. But go ahead, Crawford.
After the name of Purim, therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had been concerning this matter, and which they had come unto them,
Go ahead.
the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as join themselves unto them, so as it shall not fail, that they will keep those 2 days according to their writing.
And we keep these 2 days according to the writing, man. And where's the writing? You find it in the book of Esther, man. That's what we're keeping right now. Go ahead.
And according to their appointed time every year.
And every year you keep this, man. Every year you keep this memorial, man. If you love Black and Hispanic people, man, you would keep this, because this is what, this was you not dying and your enemies dying, and that's why we celebrate this. Same like Passover and the rest of them, man.
Right.
Most of our feast days is what? These other nations dying, man. People talking about, oh, God loves everybody. When I read about these feast days, it don't sound like it. God tells us to celebrate, man. I mean, when the Egyptians died in Jaram, listen, that's a celebration for us. Haman and his sons dying, that's a celebration for us, man. Hanukkah, that's a celebration for us, man. All these things is celebrations for us, and all of these things have to do with our enemies dying. Go ahead. So this ain't no love story and a loving everybody story. Go ahead.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation.
And these is to be remembered and kept throughout every generation, and that's why we're keeping it right now. Way back from the 5th century, we're still keeping it in the 21st century, man, because it shall be kept throughout every year and every generation. Go ahead.
Every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
And listen, man, it's only right we keep our customs and our culture, because what happens is we'll forget it, and then before you know it, we start doing Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter, and once you cut out all these holidays, once you cut out all these pagan holidays, you save a ton of money, man. Do you know how much money you save? Imagine Valentine's Day, you ain't got to buy your woman a ring and a bracelet. Salakia. You ain't got to buy your woman a ring and a bracelet. Do you know how much money you save? Tons of money, man. Go ahead.
Nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
Go ahead.
Then Esther the king, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews of the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, which word of peace and truth.
Go ahead.
To confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed.
So now, Purim, man, this is what we're keeping right now. Is there anyone that is that about it?
Yeah,
all right, no, sir.
According as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had adjoined them, and as they had decreed themselves and for their seed, the matters of fasting and of their cry, and the decree of Esther was confirmed, these matters of Purim, and was written in the book. And King Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power and his might and his declaration of his greatness of Mordecai were upon the king, upon the king advancing. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia?
And it's written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Persia, Medes. Go ahead. So if you look up there, even in their records, you'll see it. You look at check some ancient history, you'll see these things and whatnot. Go ahead.
For Mordecai the Jew was next to King Ahasuerus, and
Mordecai was next in charge. Go ahead.
And accepted the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people.
And listen, man, Mordecai only cared about his people. It says seeking the wealth of his people.
Right.
Mordecai made sure that his people was straight, man. Mordecai got that position and used that position to his advantage. Mordecai didn't get that position and marry Kim Kardashian, man. He didn't do that, man. That's what Kanye West would do, marry Kim Kardashian, man. He got that position and used it to the advantage of his people. Go ahead.
And speaking peace to all his seed.
Go ahead. That's it. All right, then. And with that, that brings us to the end of Purim. We done the first half yesterday, and that was the end of the second half. And that's why we celebrate Purim, and we're going to do the prayers, and we're going to get to feasting.
Okay, cool. With the I.S.U.P.K started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohanna, rule for a new brother or sister. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will call each other. After the 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10, means 10th in the Hebrew, Ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or the teacher. Priest fund, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you'd like to give. Upcoming holy convocation is Passover, April 9th. April 9th, New York. Or I come to the bulletin board in the hallway and check all I.S.U.P.K social media. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and headscarf. With that, I mark them. Stand.
Sorry, say that. Yeah, no, sir.
Right, face the east. Where are you? Abanawa, Shabbat, Shemaiah, Kodash, Hayah, Shamkar, Yahweh, Malakbaka, Daba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazaka, Kawa, Hayah, Ba'ashemaiah, Nafananawa, Lakam, Cow, Yawak, Wasalakanawa, Kabawafnawa, Kasalakanawa, Kabawafnawa, Wala Dabayainawa, Wana Saya One, Abba, Hawashainawa, Mayan, Right, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha Papara, La Iwalamya, Aman.
In the English, our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
That only one can suit the teacher. This is the seat, please. And men of Israel, I Bali Shabbat, I Madiam, Barak, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barakah,
Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barakah,
Yajamata, and Sar, please turn. Sisters, I Madiam. Only one can suit the sisters, men of Israel, I Bali Shabbat, I Madiam, Barak, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Yajamata, and class dismissed.
You told me with this pizza.